Hey guys, welcome back to Jurassic Collectibles. So if you've been subscribed to the channel, you'll know that the Jurassic World trailer came out earlier than expected this week. And link is down below if you want to go and check that out for yourself. Today we're going to do a full trailer analysis. So let's get straight into it. First off, we have these two guardians saying goodbye to these young boys, and it's obvious that they've been through some sort of bereavement. Maybe they've lost members of their family, because the lady says you're brave for going and you're going to have such a great time, and then she cracks a joke. Now, I don't know what you guys think, but when I first watched it, I kind of cringed a little bit because the dialogue wasn't very well written, but it was a nice refreshing take on an opening to a Jurassic Park trailer. Then we have this wonderful combination of the Universal and Legendary Pictures logos. We fly through the Legendary logo, really nicely put together, and actually this is one of my favourite parts of the trailer, funnily enough, because of the score. It holds on this really deep, somber note, and it really builds suspense, so I really like this part of the trailer. Next up, we see a load of tourists on the boat, and they've obviously left the departure lounge, and you can see on the side of the boat it's actually Isla Nublar printed on the side. So if you were a keen Jurassic Park fan, you'd be able to work out what this trailer's for. In the next shot, the boy forces his way to the front of the monorail, and we see the Jurassic World gates. And this is the payoff for the audience who are sort of trying to guess what this film is. And you see those very memorable gates, just like the ones in Jurassic Park. Now, there's been a lot of debate about how realistic these gates look. Colin Trevorrow has actually said that the gates are actually a physical model. He hasn't said what scale they are, and I'm kind of thinking they must be a miniature because they don't quite look right. But you've got to remember, this film is still a work in progress and these shots are not finished. That fire definitely needs an improvement because that doesn't feel right. And if you put the two shots of the original film Jurassic Park and this one side by side, there is no comparison. It's night and day. So I'm sure this shot is going to get another look at. So we see thousands of guests milling around at the new Jurassic Park resort. I'm not sure about this setting. Nothing here really makes me think Jurassic Park, and I've just got to be completely honest. But it's cool to see, a theoretical Jurassic Park up and running. Then we got this beautiful shot of the Gallimimuses running across the fields, and this is another moment that just makes me think of the original Jurassic Park. Fantastic. CG, a little bit ropey, needs a lot of work. It feels like it's undersaturated. They've tried to go for this sort of translucent feeling skin, but unfortunately they've lost a lot of the depth of the blacks here, and I think it's something I mentioned in the teaser trailer analysis as well. But yeah, the CG is work in progress, and it's nice to see something that reminds me of the original Jurassic Park. Next up is this great shot of the river ride. It's really nice to see something thrown back in there from the original novel. I think the dinosaurs need a bit of work, and also the Stegosaurus there in the foreground don't feel like the ones from the Lost World. But obviously the dinosaurs have been upgraded or whatever. So this is a really interesting shot and very Jurassic Park feeling. Then we're off to the gyrospheres, and if you haven't seen my take on the gyrosphere ride, click on the link down below. You can check out a video about those rides. And in this full version of the trailer, we get to see more of the apatosaurs in the background, and they look really nice close up. I would just say, as a whole, when you see them out of the corner of your eye, there's something not realistic about them. But when you pause it and look at the detail, there's beautiful scaling going on all over the body. I'd really like to pick one up and have a closer look. I'm sure there'll be some sort of toy next year that I can review, and we can take a closer look together. Next up, we got this wonderful sweeping shot going across the monorail and towards this massive rotunda where the sea life show is. Now, I have to say personally, the sea life show doesn't appeal to me. It's because I grew up with Jurassic Park and all the dinosaurs were land-based, but it's a really interesting concept. And of course we get this big payoff with the mosasaur or plesiosaur coming out of the water and eating the shark. The editing here feels a bit jarring. The music completely cuts out before this shot if you've watched the trailer a few times, and I don't know if that's because they had to rush the editing to get this thing out. It was rumoured that the Star Wars trailer being out the end of this week meant that Jurassic World had to bring its trailer forward, so I do feel like there should have been some sort of music that held sort of like a high-pitched tone right till the point when this comes up to grab the shark. And this shot really brings it up to date. You can see everyone with their smartphones recording the dinosaur, and that's very true. That's something you'd see nowadays, and it actually shows how vastly technology has improved since 1993 when Jurassic Park came out. Okay, so the next few shots build up to Bryce Dallas Howard giving a talk of some sort, and she's saying that in the past decade, genetics has learned more than digging up bones in the last century. This is a very poorly written line of dialogue, and digging up bones is really non-specific. Everything about this line really frustrates me. It's not a very scientific statement, and I understand that this trailer has got to be simplified so that a mass audience can understand it, but that is a terrible line of dialogue. So I hope that's a cut down version, or something's been edited there, and that actually in the film the line is going to be much more eloquent. And while she's delivering this line, we see a really nice shot of the hatchery, which has been updated. And something that I've noted is that there's different size eggs going on. There's always been a debate about the consistency of eggs in Jurassic Park. There's different shapes for different breeds, so it's nice to see some eggs of different proportions going on in this shot. Now, this shot of some kind of mutated vertebrae, maybe you're excited by this concept, but to me, seeing this spine in this tube with all these wires coming off takes the Jurassic Park franchise into a sort of alien resurrection territory, and I'm not so interested in that. Maybe when I see the film, my mind will be changed. I'm very open-minded about that, but from the trailer, this shot really does not appeal to me at all. Then we see this exchange with Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard, and he says, "You just went and made a new dinosaur?" Again, that's a terrible line of dialogue for me. Very badly written, but it's humorous. The payoff is humorous because he says, "Probably not a good idea." It's kind of like the layman's interpretation of what they're doing with genetics. Next, we see Chris Pratt taking a look at a 40-foot high wall where this mutant dinosaur has escaped, and again, the dialogue here is really ropey, but the visuals are very exciting. Notice here in the background there's some sort of giant bones, so whether it's another dinosaur that they've eaten, but it just doesn't look entirely eaten. Some of it looks almost burnt, so that's interesting. I love this shot here of the split helmet with the blood on it. That's just fantastic and really does sort of fill the audience with fear. Wonderful shot. So here we see the gyrosphere that's been broken into, so it's obvious that one of the gyrospheres went missing, and Chris Pratt's character has discovered where it actually ended up, and maybe it was the D-Rex that was responsible for this. I believe this character's called Hamada, and a drop of blood falls on his arm. Very exciting. What I really want to know is, what is that he's holding in his hand? It's something pink and fleshy, so I'm just interested to know what that is that he's holding. This shot's quite interesting because we see Bryce Dallas Howard really looking like she's been through the wars. So this is obviously later on in the story. So have they ventured into the old parts of the park? Next we see this shot of the two boys jumping over the waterfall, and actually if you start joining up the dots, you can work out that the boys are probably the ones who have been attacked in the gyroscope, and the two boys went missing. But they somehow managed to escape, and now they're venturing out in the wild. That's what I can assume. You could assume that this was Bryce Dallas Howard and Chris Pratt if you're just watching it really quickly, but actually no, it's the two boys falling down the waterfall. This first person shot of someone being dragged away by a dinosaur is incredible. Really impressed by this, and I wonder if it's something from the incident at the beginning of the film, because it's got that similar lighting to when Joffrey is attacked at the beginning of Jurassic Park. But it's a really cool looking shot, and I really like this. Next we get our first look at what I can only assume is the D-Rex, or the mutant dinosaur, and probably the biggest thing I notice is the size of the claws on the hand. Look at those. They're about a meter long, like giant scythes, and the dinosaur that reminds me of is a Therizinosaurus. But obviously this isn't going to be a Therizinosaurus, it's some kind of mutant dinosaur. But this shot did actually restore some of my faith about this mutant dinosaur. It does feel quite grounded in the biology of a normal dinosaur. Really like this shot of Bryce Dallas Howard filled with terror with a flare in one hand. Feels very Ellie Sattler, feels very true to the first film. Almost a little bit alien actually, but yeah, really really cool shot, love this. Next we see a couple of shots with crowds of people running through those streets that we saw populated earlier on in the trailer, and it feels like we're swooping down with the dinosaurs, so possibly this is a bit when guests are attacked by pterosaurs. Next we got this shot of Bryce Dallas Howard really disheveled, sweaty, and actually the way she says run is very Ellie Sattler. It's just like that shot in Jurassic Park when she sees Alan Grant and she tells herself to run. She almost looks like she's wearing the same clothing, so this is obviously a homage to that original shot. Next we got this really scary shot of the boy being enveloped by the shadow of the dinosaur. I'm assuming this is the mutant dinosaur. Very, very exciting. The Jurassic World logo there, merchandising in the background, a nice little nod to the way that the merchandising was all around in Jurassic Park. And then finally we get the Jurassic World logo, and the music is really, really effective in this second half of the trailer. I love the way that they use the slow notes of the original theme. That's really powerful, and actually maybe it gives us an idea of what the film's going to be like. Maybe it's going to be very serious and quite somber, but we'll have to wait and see. So lastly we get probably the biggest payoff of the whole trailer. We got this set of kennels being broken out of by raptors that look exactly like the original raptors from Jurassic Park, which is fantastic to see. But the fact they're in kennels is a little bit worrying. It makes me feel like they're being treated like greyhounds, and I know that's kind of the way we're going with this story is that the raptors have been trained by Chris Pratt's character, but I feel, to me, like this takes the edge off the ferociousness of the raptors. The raptors were always the killing machines. You should always be afraid of the raptors, and they should never be under man's control. But yeah, I suppose you've got to go somewhere new with the story, and this is where it's going. So that's that. What I do like also is if you look in the background, the complex looks very Jurassic Park. It looks almost like the Jurassic Park raptor pen. So that's nice to see. And lastly, we have these shots of Chris Pratt on the bike with the raptors running alongside him. Now, I don't know a Jurassic Park fan who couldn't get excited by this image, but having sort of let it sit for a little while after a day of thinking about it, as cool as this is, I still preferred the raptors when they were the predators. And that's my only feeling. I think when I see the film, I'm going to feel differently about this. And I think the thing is about this full trailer, there's not enough of the original Jurassic Park in there for me to feel like I'm going back to the original Isla Nublar. But I think that is actually going to be in the film. I'd probably come over as very critical of this trailer, but I just want the best for Jurassic Park fans. And I think that the second half of the film is going to focus a lot more on the original island than we think. So that's what I'm really looking forward to seeing in a fuller, longer second trailer. I think we're going to see more of the original Jurassic Park, and that's what I'm really hoping for. Okay guys, rate, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.